In Affinity Photo, you can use brushstrokes to create all kinds of really intense designs. Oh, how would you create something like this? Well, initially, you need a design to actually use with that brush. I'm going to show you that later, but let's just go to the brushes itself. So the brushes here, just using the standard, this one, paintbrush tool, and you can see the brushes here. Fairly complex design, so if I just double click, and you can see here, now I've got this panel. And you can modify the size jitter, you can modify the various rotation and create designs like this. You can also use it, of course, with a mouse or an art pad and pen. I'm using the cyclic option here, no pressure, etc. And also, key thing here is making certain that the spacing is quite low to create this design. So how to start? Well, I'm going to go with a pattern design. I always think that's one of the easiest ways of doing it. And I'm just going to remove these layers to start the whole thing. So let's just go through and delete those. Now I don't need the brushes initially, and I'm just going to go and create a layer. So layer, a new layer, and then just create a gradient, very colourful gradient, and it's white to black. Unfortunately, that's always the default. I wish it wasn't, but that's what it is. And just quickly modify it. So you can go along the line, you can see you can add here, or you can go up here with the gradient tool. Just click here and then just go along here, and I'm just going to add some colors. So let's just go with that, double click again and just change the color very quickly here. And you can see you could add as many stops as you want. Unfortunately, you can't drag it out. In Photoshop you can, but unfortunately for some weird reason they didn't add that feature in Affinity Photo. So now I'm just going to do the M1 and then just go for something colourful like that. Okay, so you've got something nice and colourful and you can manipulate this design. I might actually change the black as well. Don't want that. Don't want any black. So let's just click there and go with blue because I'm going to combine it. So obviously having black in it or white, never so great in the combination. Next thing to do, I'm going to convert it into a pattern. And the reason for this is I could use selections on this, but it's going to be, well, it's not going to be as noisy as the design I'm going to create. At this point, it's quite nice and smooth. It's really, not great as a start point. So I'm going to turn it into a pattern. So layer, a new pattern layer from selection. And with this, I can then resize this design. So let's just move this down and you can see it, you can resize it in countless ways. But another option, which I always like to do, obviously using the move tool here, is you can go up here at the mirror and then you get this. And now this creates a lot of great opportunities for creating any kind of pattern design. Now you can manipulate it with filters as well. That's another thing which I'm just going to do a little bit. But I always like to combine these. So I'm just going to duplicate this one. So layer and down here to duplicate. And then I'm just going to rotate it. And then just go through blend modes. And you can see as you do that, you get all kinds of different designs. I think it's always a great way of just running through, certainly to get a more complex, colourful design. I think that's so lighter colour. I'm just going to go with that. Then just go to layer and I'm just going to merge visible. All that does is combines it and creates a pixel layer at top. It's no longer a pattern. You can't resize it. Now the patterns are still there. You can always go back, and I think it's good to leave them there if you want. You could, of course, hide them if you don't want them to be there. Okay, now I can distort it, which makes even more sort of unusual designs to use. So filter, and then just go down here to distort and deform. Works best if you've got the move tool selected. So deform, bring that up here, and just add some pins. Doesn't need many, but just add a few, just distort it, and that just creates some interesting variations to the design. If you want, you could have it all identical all across the design, but I just like to bring in some sort of odd bits of areas that are sort of crunched in, some bits that are stretched out, and click apply. This is going to be the source for the brush. So how to create the source for the brush? Well, next thing to do is just go over here and I'm going to use a selection, elliptical marquee. You could, of course, use all kinds of different selections. Don't have to create circular or square. you can just create anything you want. You could combine it with layer effects as well. So let's just create a circle. So here's a circle, and I'm going to use this area. Now, weirdly, and maybe this is just me, but in this version, this is version 2, recent version. Now, if I go down here to File and Export, and I've got a selection here, and the selection area, in the past, I'm quite certain that it would just use the selection. Doesn't seem to do that anymore. It's treating the whole document as the selection. Anyway, workaround for that problem is simply go to Edit and Copy, Edit and Paste. Obviously, you can use the shortcuts, of course, as well. And now you've got a pixel layer here of that little bit there. Then just go there, File and Export. And then you can see you've got this design. And you can vary it. Obviously, you can make it smaller. Let's hope it has actually got the circular design because it's selection only. There you are. It's got the selection only this time. Always worth checking, otherwise you just get a square instead. Next thing to do, PNG, going to go with that and export. And I'm going to save it to 1.pit. Obviously I've created something earlier with that, and then I can move it. Now you don't have to have it the same size, you don't have to have the same selection. I'm just going to go with this. Now, unfortunately, because this is selected, moving it to another area and try and export will not work. So you just quickly delete it, and now it's not deleting this design. Then go back to the selection tool, and then you can move it. So you hover over it, and you can see you can move it. And you might decide, you know what, I think that looks an interesting part of the image. I'm going to use that. And then again, edit and copy, edit and paste, and again, file and export. And you can do this 20 or 30 times. I mean, obviously, I'm just going to do 1 or 2 of these so you can see selection area again, export, and it's time to replace. Now, another thing you could do, maybe you want to add some color into it, a variation. You don't have to, because the brushes, you can add some randomization to the color via the dynamics. So you don't need to do that. I'm just wanting some sort of more unusual structures. So again, make sure you delete that layer. I just want this design. This is the layer I'm working, what I want to export. So again, I think that's a nice area again. Edit, copy, and edit and paste, and then file, and again, export. And that's it. I'm just going to go with 3. I could add, let's say, some depth. I could go for some layer effects, maybe a bevel or a 3D effect. That's another option. And export, maybe create multiple copies. That's another option as well. So 3.png, and again, replace that. Okay, so now select and deselect. I'm going to use this layer. You don't have to, but I'm just going to use it. I could create a completely fresh layer. Now, just go to the brushes, so window and brushes. And in brushes, you can see I've got some already. I've created some. What you can do, go up here. Just need to go to this right side menu here and click. And then down to new image brush. So new image brush, and then select files. Now, I've created other ones as well, but there's the 3 that I've just created, colourful designs, which can then be used in this brush, and click open. And it uses those 3 designs in the brush stroke. So click open. And now you can see if I go over here, and you can see you've got sub brushes there. It doesn't actually show anything there. Texture, there it is. Sub brush is slightly different, but you've got texture there. You can see the 3, and you can always remove them and add something additional later. If suddenly you say, you know what, I want to add something with a twirl or a different design. So there's the place to change it. And also you can modify how it accesses it. So if you want it different ways, again, you can modify cyclic, pressure, etc. can be used to modify how it applies it, how many times it applies this, how many times it applies that, those sort of things. Now, what you can do, you can change general, and you can give it a name, circular 1, whatever. And then you can change the size. You can vary it, maybe make it up to there. You can see, like I say, all the variations there. And now there's space. Now I'm going to reduce it down. You can see again the changes it does it. Now, one thing about this, if you go and select the brush tool, here's the brush tool over here, you can now apply it. and you can just test it out, see if that's the design you want. And of course, you might not want that. You can, of course, then go back here and you can vary it again. Now, what you can also do is dynamics. You can change this and you can go over here and go with cyclic. I love cyclic, one of the best features, and you can modify, create all kinds of applied brush strokes. But in this case, I'm spreading it over the entire document. It's not such a big deal, but it's still a nice feature to have. I think you can just vary this, so you can increase this, and you can create some truly weird and wonderful shapes just by using cyclic and just going here and modifying this profile. Also, if you want, you can add rotation, so you can get even more sort of random effect. And as mentioned, if you want some variation in color, you don't want just the blues, the reds, the greens you can see here, you can do it via this hue gesture, which again you can modify by random, or go with cyclic and create many changes there. You can see it flows from one to another, and you can again change that color effect in the profile. It does create some interesting brushes. And then click close. So you've got your brush, and now you can apply it. And you can see as you do it, I think this creates a very sort of 60s psychedelic kind of effect with that gradient as well into the design. It gives a lovely colourful, and you can apply it like that, or maybe you might more random. How to do that? Just go over here, double click. Maybe you can also duplicate the brush. You can always right click, duplicate the brush, and then create multiple brush variations of the brush. And you may want one that doesn't vary the color, but also you want one maybe that goes with scatter. You could scatter Y and scatter X. I wish it was linked. I wish there was a feature just to link it. Otherwise, you have to just do that. But you can then spread it over the entire document very quickly. So click close, and you can see then you get this kind of effect instead of all crunched in together. Now you create a more random abstract design. Now you can also modify these brushes. You could have distorted the brushes as well. That was another thing that is always possible to do before you create the brush. In fact, because I haven't deleted it, I can go back to that layer. It's still there. So I can go and filter and repeat deform again, and I can create some additional ones like that, create even more distorted, or maybe select different size variants. You don't have to have them the same size brush. I went for same size, but it doesn't have to be. You could also maybe go with twirls, etc. So let's just select this area and, oops, don't want to go over that part. Let's just actually create something freehand. So just to show you, you can create some variation as well, simply by doing this. Now I'm using a mouse. You can see it's a real sort of not very accurate, trying to create a sort of wavy effect, sort of. That's the attempt anyway. Yep, there's the selection. And now I can then go and do exactly the same. Now, unfortunately, because of course, I've still got to do edit, copy, edit and paste. Then file, and again, export. So now you can see I've got here selection here only again. So it's got this design, and export. And this time I'm going to say to, let's get that out of the way, 4, and save and replace. Okay, so I've got that saved. And as mentioned, I can also go with option here. Let's just go for, let's select deset. You don't have to have that. I can then just go for effects and maybe 3D. And you can see then you get a 3D effect like that, which I think creates some interesting designs. With this, I would suggest then go to layer and down to rasterize, and rasterize it like that. I like to rasterize, makes it all one layer, then file and export, and you've got this design, exact same. And I'm going to go with 5. Yep. And now you can go back to the brushes, and you can add some brushes. Again, you could duplicate this one, make a variation of this brush. So double click, and now again go to texture, and you see you've got an option there for add. So add, and 4 and 5, let's see. No, weirdly it doesn't let you select more than one. Why? Oh, why? Doesn't make any sense. I want to add multiple brushes, I have to do it individually. That makes baffling, but anyway, click open, and you can see you got that, and then add, and then that, and click and you got that one with the 3D effect, 3D-ish effect, I should say. And now I can apply it, and you can see now you're getting a bit of the 3D coming in. And click close. Exact same as before. I can just go and apply it. Let's just go to the brush again. There's the brush, and you can see now you got that effect. If you apply it like that, exactly the same as before, or double click and dynamics, you can see it's gone back with size just as you push it all there, and hue jitter, and you can see you can create literally millions of variations by, like say, cyclic, always worth exploring. You can see you get something like that, and also rotation if you want that, or scatter and scatter Y and apply it again, and then you get this, which creates some really interesting noise effects across your image. And again, you can distort this. You can always go to filters, repeat, deform, and so on to see, stretch it out and distort it, maybe apply it again, and so on. Maybe use layers, maybe use blending modes when you apply this brush stroke. So you can see blend. You can always go with lighten and just apply it like that, or maybe difference. And you can create literally millions and millions. That really creates even more intense noise effects doing it that way. And there, you can see now that noise effect. Another option, you can always go for select and then selection from layer intensity, get a quite intense selection, edit and copy, edit and paste. I would love to see a 3D feature, apply surface texture kind of feature in Affinity Photo. Unfortunately, there isn't. It's not very good. You've got a lighting effect, which I find pretty awful. It doesn't have smoothing or anything. Unfortunately, means the result isn't great. And there you can see now I've got here, I can go to effects and 3D, and you can see then I can just increase this. Also change profile, and you can see as you do that, you will get obviously multiple different designs, very rapid, three-dimensional depth to it, and obviously you can tweak it, soften, etc. But again, all those sort of features I think should be within a filter. But you can do it just by doing this, and this gives a bit of depth to the image, and again, merge visible to create a single layer. And of course you can modify this further, apply some displacement maps, maybe apply some blurring effects, all kinds of weird effects that can be added to create even more amazing designs. Hope you found this of interest. Hope you find that brushes are really easy and useful to create all kinds of truly abstract designs, which you can turn into something like this, which are great for background designs, overlays, and as mentioned, noise effect, texture that you can add maybe to all kinds of different things, which of course you can also then modify by going here to use the deform and distort and all these other ones as well. Any questions, thoughts, please let me know in the comments below. A like or dislike, always appreciated. Bye.